Welcome to the MVP Show. In this episode, I catch up with Marco, who just recently moved back to Spain after a long stint in the UK. This guy's a legend. He was an MVP. He became a Microsoft employee. Now he's an MVP again. How's that, right? He's got the goods. So if you want the full show notes, you can see them at nz365guide.com/90. Now let's get on with the show. Hey Marco, welcome to the MVP Show.
Hey Mark, thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. Good to have you finally on the show, being that you're, I take it you live in London right at the moment?
No, I just moved back to Spain recently in the last 6 months.
Well, see, it must have been 6 months ago that I saw you that I knew you said you were moving back to Spain. So you've finally made that decision, eh?
Yeah, it's been 11 years in London, and we finally decided to head back to Spain and be closer to the family.
Yeah, so what part of Spain have you gone to?
It's a place called Galicia in the northwest of Spain, near Portugal. It's the Atlantic
The best
coast.
seafood right in the country, am I right?
That's right.
And you practice the queimada?
Queimada, yeah, we do that ritual. We should do one on the MVP Summit once.
Oh man, do it! You've got to bring all those bottles of grappa, with you, and you get your chants down in 3 languages.
Yeah, that it might be tricky to get all the alcohol through security, but we'll find a way.
True. You can rope in Ramon. He must know the queimada, doesn't he, as well?
Yeah, I think he's tried it once at least. He came to visit Galicia with me.
I've done it twice.
Oh, there you go. You're an expert now.
But I walked the Camino de Santiago, and of course that goes right the way through that region.
Absolutely. Beautiful way.
And as I say, the seafood is what just appealed to me. I mean, I still dream of the seafood out in Finisterre. Oh man, just amazing.
You should come and visit once. It's a great place. And now I'm based here.
Nice. So you've changed jobs there, right? You're working for KPMG Crimson Tide now, is that right?
Yeah, KPMG Crimson Wing.
Oh, is it Crimson Wing, is it? I call it Crimson Tide. I don't know why that was. Perhaps it was I think a movie had that name or something.
I think that there was, yeah. Crimson Wing comes from a bird, actually, that's the inspiration on the name.
So first of all, can you solve a bit of a problem for me? I noticed that it says you've been an MVP for 6 years. Now, I've been an MVP for around the same time, and I know that you haven't been an MVP for the entire time I've been an MVP. So can you please explain how you were an MVP, you became a Microsoft employee, and then you're no longer a Microsoft employee, you became an MVP again. Can you take me through it?
Yeah, sure. I think my first MVP award, I think it was in 2007. I think that was January 2007, if I remember correctly. And so from 2007 to 2011, I was a Microsoft MVP for Dynamics CRM. And at that time in 2011, I joined Microsoft. So obviously, you cannot be an independent professional if you work for the vendor. So you automatically lose the MVP title. But I did remain engaged with the MVPs and the communities through those years. And then when I left Microsoft, I just continued doing what I like, which is participating in events and communities. And last year, I got nominated again and awarded, and it's an honor to be back. I was also part of the. There is a community for called MVP Reconnect for it's kind of AA for MVPs, but
I love it.
But yeah, I was part of that as well. So I think I'm only one of the few ones that I know, a list of that has gone from being an MVP, going to Microsoft, being through this ex-MVP program and back to an MVP. So it's quite interesting.
So he was an MVP when I started, and of course now he's in the rock star, show the technology off all around the world team inside Microsoft. So it's interesting how many MVPs do end up becoming Microsoft employees over time.
Oh yeah, no, there are a few. There was one recently, but there was a few on the year. There's actually within Microsoft there is a kind of I don't know if they use Teams now there, but there was a distribution list for former MVPs to connect within Microsoft, so it was fun.
Yeah. Because I know, yeah, quite a few. At least I can think of three top of mind of all former MVPs that are all now in. Well, I can actually a fourth and a fifth just came to mind as well. So, yeah. So there's definitely a few.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, I remember someone told me once when I left Microsoft, he said to me, you'll come back to Microsoft or MVP, or you have blue blood going through your veins. You're too much ingrained on the Microsoft ecosystem to ever leave it.
So, what kind of roles did you have in Microsoft when you were there? As in, was it a TSP or SSP type role?
I had two actually. For the first part of it, I was sort of a TSP at that time. It was part of a thing called the Lighthouse. So Microsoft had this structure covering Europe called the time zone, EMEA really, and I was part of that doing pre-sales for a while. It was fun. I got to see some interesting clients, spend time. And it was the early days. We even there wasn't even CRM online at that time in Europe, so it was it was good fun. And then I transitioned to the UK subsidiary and started working as a partner strategist,
PST?
essentially helping.
PTS,
Yeah,
isn't it? Sorry, PTS.
Yeah, helping partners, and and that was actually really good fun. Because it allowed me to connect more with the community in the UK. We were organizing partner roadshows, so I was responsible for running those every quarter, and I got to meet all the partners and understand the different businesses, and it coincided with this transition to the cloud model, getting CRM. So it was a really good time to work with partners.
So give us an overview of kind of like your career from a looking at the technology, kind of what have been some big highlights that you've seen around how, the core technology has changed in that time you've been involved with it.
It's interesting. I think we've done a few swings. I was discussing this with some friends last year, and we actually did a session in the CRM Saturday in Madrid with a theme called Back to the Future. And we did dress up as the Back to the Future characters. I was Doc Martin and all that stuff. But
you're a Doc.
Yeah,
you're a Doc, were you?
Yeah. And Mario.
It was Marty.
Mario was Marty McFly. Yeah, the young one. It was good fun. But essentially, what we tried to say there is, and I'm sure you've been around for a while, so I'm sure you remember this video that Microsoft released. I think it was 2011 or 2010. No, it was earlier than that, maybe 2009. The XRM video with all that
cow management, dog management, cloud management. Yeah.
That's the one. It's funny because that video is still on YouTube if you go and look for it. But
totally, I've actually got a copy of it on my account. I just didn't want it to disappear because it definitely has some nostalgia, with where we came from, as you say, back in 2011, and the whole idea of relationship management and really building anything and have a relationship with it. So yeah.
To illustrate the point, that's when I started with Dynamics back in 2005. And I guess with version 3 later in 2006, we saw it was a platform. We could build the stuff. We could customize very easily the entities, all that stuff, and start. It was brilliant. So everyone started to look at it as a kind of a platform, kind of delivering what the 4GL languages a generation before promised. And around that time, 2011, so Microsoft kind of swing towards more of the application, abandon a little bit the XRM proposition and focus on, sales, marketing, that message of enriching the core apps, and it was fine, and we've seen some amazing changes on the platform thanks to those investments. But I felt like we lost a little bit of the core of what attracted people like me, people with technical background to the platform. And then when we when I saw the Power Apps coming to play, and all the Power Platform, I said, now you nailed it, because now we got that module back, that XRM platform back to create amazingly fast business applications, super quick and with all the AI, but they still got the first party apps to support, a credible business application platform.
So interesting that you mentioned, there was that period of time where, the XRM was a kind of like a hot topic, but it was kind of like really not Microsoft core messaging. And then it went very much around the app specific. And I actually remember being in Houston, Texas at the time with a senior PM from Microsoft, interesting enough, on a Ferris wheel. And we were debating like why, she was very strongly of the opinion that Microsoft was in the app creating business, that it wasn't in the platform business. I think there'd been some pushback from people like from teams around, our developer tools, Visual Studio and that type of area, TFS and whatnot, and that Dynamics was meant to be a CRM system, a customer relationship system in its purest form, and nothing else, right? It wasn't an app dev platform. And because there was friction, of course, with the SharePoint folk. They had a system for building kind of line of business solutions. I'm not going to call them applications, I just call them solutions. And with their unstructured data, and they could, use Windows Workflow Foundation and create workflows and things like that as well. So what's your percent? Like, obviously, a lot of it was influenced, I feel like, by the leadership at different points in Microsoft. And now we've got a phenomenal leader in James Phillips that's absolutely gets the platform story and on a mission to, turn the platform into a $1 billion income stream without even thinking about the word Dynamics 365, right? As in, yep, that's there, that's a solid, consistent business. But I love this vision for a future platform that we can pretty much build any line of business application on directly on the Power Platform with no Dynamics 365 involvement. Did you see any of those type of changes internal to Microsoft while you were there, or is it just your observation about being in the community for this period of time?
It's a mix, but yeah, we saw, while I was inside, we saw some of the swings of with the changes of leadership. I saw one change of leadership while I was inside of Microsoft, and I think the pressure was partially was due to changes of leadership and changes of strategy, but also the pressure of the market. If you remember, early 2011 or so, Salesforce was diversifying, going more on this Sales Cloud, Service Cloud. Microsoft was playing catch up on that message, and all the credit to Salesforce. They created a market. They created this CRM market, this service market, this sales market, and Microsoft, I think, for lack of a better explanation, just fell behind on some of that. And
well, Microsoft came to the market 9 years after Salesforce did, right? So Salesforce always had a 9-year head start, in the game.
Correct, and I think that, in terms of strategy, they were falling behind because I seriously believe that at some point, Dynamics wasn't valued enough at the top of Microsoft. That's my feeling, and I had that experience working inside Microsoft where, I'm not talking too far ago, but where people were not even interested on Dynamics. They were interested on the big ticket items that they have, SQL Server, all the stuff. But selling Dynamics, selling business applications was always much more different for a Microsoft seller than selling other Microsoft tools and products. And I think the push they made to position themselves as a credible business application meant that something had to give, and that was the platform that suffered because the leadership that came in place had a mentality, came from another, similar platform. They focus on, and I think, I agree with you. James Phillips is a really good breath of fresh air here because two things. My perspective and his leadership team, some of them I met in the different pillars. They do really care about the client feedback. They do really care about clients and what is the perception and what is the need, and but they also believe on that platform, on creating something that powers business. And is the testament is there in the last year, the phenomenal amount of change we've seen, and where the product is. It's just amazing. I mean, there are rough edges like every product, and we complain, um, like, but it's brilliant. And I think the insider view is interesting sometimes, and you see the fights, but there is what I've always found in the dynamics business within Microsoft and then outside is the passion. It's interesting to see how many people really falls in love with the product, and they really defend it and go out of their way to make sure it is successful.
As an I'm blown away with, I think I counted up 400, 350. There's around 800 new features just dropping in 2019, right? That is phenomenal, right? And it just shows, I mean, the scaling of the team, over doubled in size, almost 3 times, if not 3 times the size now it was 18 months ago. And of course, I just feel that the conversation is no longer between, a Salesforce dynamic CRM conversation. The platform story is such a powerful story. I just, I'm so keen for them to drop and get out to market the power controls but the power control framework, or the power, there's a couple of names, the Power Apps Control Framework, Power Component Framework, whatever it lands up or ends up being. I just think that it's kind of like when that last piece of technology is there from a extensibility point of view, really it's just up to how creative one can be to what could be created for a business. Phenomenal.
Yeah, it is phenomenal. And it is exciting times to be working on this platform. I think partially my I remember when I was leaving Microsoft, Satya was starting his reign and there was internal. I remember there was like internal bets on who would be the next CEO, and I remember discussing this with a good friend at the time inside Microsoft. Saying, I wish it's Satya, because that guy understands cloud. He started Dynamics on the way back, and I'm sure he will invest on all of this. And lo and behold, see the result a few years later.
Wow.
And I think,
mate, don't you wish you still had all your shares from back then? I bet you wish you hadn't cancelled those outright.
I don't want to talk about that. It's a painful reminder. But
yeah, I could imagine.
I think when I joined Microsoft, shares were like 20 or something like that. And now look at them, 100. It's just ridiculous.
You'd be retired now, wouldn't you, if you just held on to them?
Yeah, I know. To be honest, I know a few people that have been long term at Microsoft in Dynamics. Let's say they've done well. One of them is driving a Porsche.
Yeah. No surprises there, right? Some serious, as in, my wife works at Google and stuff, and you see what happens when people enter the company in their early stages. I had another friend at Facebook who was the first Facebook employee in Australia. And the crazy thing is, when I first met this guy, he was pulling coffees. He was a barista in Auckland. He flies over to Sydney, decides to, stay there, and ends up being Facebook's first employee. So, of course, got his share allocation as part of that. And then when he left the business, my gosh, his tax bill was probably, enough to what I'd get paid over a 5-year period type thing, because he, so many shares vested. Just incredible.
It is amazing how some of these companies can actually transform and generate value. I think you know it is a testament to Microsoft how they transform themselves and the today I was discussing this last week with someone is yeah there are areas if you look at the Microsoft product portfolio I think you might find something that is a little bit better on a specific product. So think about cloud. You might find something that is a little bit better than some Azure service or something that is a little bit better than Dynamics. But you would struggle to find a company that can offer everything on the same ecosystem with one platform, one set of tooling, all that stuff. I think for me it is incredible, and it's also a demonstration of how Microsoft going back to focus on their core business, building platforms where people can innovate, working with partners, and believe it or not, the partner channel is a huge differentiation from other vendors. If you look at SAP, at Salesforce, and none of them understand or work with partners like Microsoft does. It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, and I definitely, when I look at some of those other big companies like you mentioned and stuff, I think they lack for not having a partner ecosystem in a way, because it's just you've got this massive, extensive sales force out there, um, that's not kind of trying to hawk products. They actually fully believe in them. I think, to a degree, one of the reasons why Dynamics has become so successful is because the other two clouds, Office 365 and Azure, have become successful, and it's really buoyed up the kind of the Dynamics 365 story and now the Power Platform story because of those other successes. And what I felt it did is it moved Microsoft's perception and market to just being a server and tool/desktop or operating system, to being so much more. Back in my early days, you'd talk about CRM to a company, and the company would go, "What? Microsoft does a CRM? Like, never heard of that, right? Don't they just do the desktop and the Outlook and Office and things like that?" And then, but Office 365, I think, really moved the dial for Microsoft's wider perception and market. And then, of course, Azure and the enterprise just took it to a whole new level.
I think I agree with you on that. I think the image that Microsoft had, mid early notice or stuff like that, it was Office, and maybe for some of the IT folks, Windows Server and SharePoint stuff. But it has transformed, and the pool of Office 365, it's kind of, I mean, there's still people using other email tools and other things, but it's kind of the standard now. And whatever that drives, it is amazing. And for me, the three cloud strategy, having that ability to go deep and create your business on Azure, have your productivity with Office, and then have a platform where you don't need to be a full-fledged developer to create value. That is the nirvana. And as you said, there is still things coming, the control framework, a few other things that need to be there to make it perfect, but the value is already there. I mean, you see some of the things that people are building now with Power Apps, and it's just incredible.
Totally. Listen, what's your advice to people that are kind of new to Dynamics as a platform? They've decided that they want to build a career in this space. What's your advice to them? As in, so they don't want to just do Dynamics or the Power Platform as a job. They really want to make this a long-term career. What's your advice?
It's I think it's more complicated today than it was when we were lucky to start, right? But I remember the way I learned, it was reading the SDK, the good old help file in Windows SDK, and then looking at the forums, see what questions, and try to answer questions from other people, because that made me try things and learn. And I think my advice would be similar. The platform is too big today, so you won't be able to learn everything at once. And all of us working on this, I think to a certain extent, suffer from anxiety now, or the fear of missing out with all the session, with all the content that those, how many features you said, 800. It's just, it's difficult to stay up to date. But I think you have to choose an area that you really like, become a bit of an expert on that, and make yourself. I think someone described this as a T shape, where you have a deep expertise in one area of this platform that you really love, but then you understand all the others and how they connect. And for me, someone brand new to this, I think the easiest way to get started is look at Power Apps, understand a little bit about the data models, how it works. Look at the model-driven Power Apps, and then grow your way from there to the business applications, to customer engagement apps, and also F&O if you like that. But
I like that. If you like that. True.
I like some of the apps of F&O, but sometimes when I see demonstrations of General Ledger and stuff like that, it gets a bit more tedious than the sales AI, let's say.
Agreed. Okay, let's wrap up. I got a couple of wrap-up questions for you. What do people never ask you that you wish they did?
Oh, that's a good one. I think not many people ask, what's your fear? I think everyone thinks, because you've been around for a while and you have experience, everyone thinks that you're an expert, you know everything, and it's the opposite. The more I find this, and I discussed it a couple of times with some other MVPs, is the imposter syndrome. Is the more you know that you don't know. So it becomes, for me, it actually, with the years, it became more difficult to give absolute opinions, or to do some presentations and blog posts and stuff where I just don't want to, because I know there is always shades of gray. So I wish that people, was less afraid of approaching and asking questions and showing you things. I guess is what I see is that some of the younger people getting into the platform, or just new people getting into the platform, they actually had a lot of things to add. And the user groups and the Saturdays and all that stuff is a great platform for new blood to come and show things.
What's the number one app you use most on your mobile phone?
I have to admit, it's Outlook, I guess, because email stuff and that. But then after that is one related to CrossFit in the last 6 months. So yeah.
So you're in the religion of CrossFit.
I got hooked into it by.
It is like a religion though, CrossFit, right?
It's kind of, it becomes it's like a cult sometimes. Yeah. But
I totally agree. Awesome, Marco. It's been great to have you on the show. Before you go, if people want to connect with you online, where can they find you?
The best place to find me is Twitter, so it's at Marco Amoedo, or LinkedIn. Just search for Marco Amoedo. There is not many, and through LinkedIn or Twitter you can find me very easily.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you have any questions about any of our episodes or our guests, feel free to comment, engage, look me up on any of the social media networks, NZ365 Guy. I'm open to, chatting if you want advice around career, etc., or, what type of pivots you should make in your career. Feel free to hit me up. Always happy to help. You can find full show notes at nz365guy.com/90 for this episode. 90, that means I've done 90 episodes of podcasting. Wow, time flies. Anyhow, see you next week. Ciao.